Thank you to Aura for sponsoring a portion of this video. Today I want to talk about 5 ways that you can boost your self-esteem. And I'm not talking about the typical tips like just say positive affirmations, write nice things about yourself, say it in front of a mirror. I'm talking about things that go a little bit deeper to the actual core of where self-esteem derives from. And this is kind of a follow-up video to a video I made a few weeks ago on signs of low self-esteem. So if you have low self-esteem, here are a few tips. Number 1, start speaking up for what you believe in. This can be hard for people with low self-esteem because typically in interpersonal interactions, people-pleasing kind of supersedes everything else. So even if you disagree with someone or you want to stand up for yourself or somebody else, if your priority in that interaction is just, I want this person to accept me and to like me, it's going to be hard to actually stand up for what you believe in. And speaking up for what you believe in is really important because without it, it can become almost like a form of self-censorship and it can feel inauthentic. Like we're not truly honoring ourselves. We're putting other people's values above our own, putting how other people see us over how we see ourselves. Actually, one of my resolutions for 2024 was to speak up more when I disagree with someone. And I think I've done a pretty good job of that. Like you'll notice even with some of the videos on this channel, I'll sometimes do TikTok reactions where I express when I respectfully disagree with someone. It's a skill that you kind of have to build up. So if you want to boost your self-esteem, stop trying to be a social chameleon, stop going into every interaction just asking, how am I going to get this person to like me? And instead go into interactions with the goal of authenticity. For example, if you don't like the tone with which someone is speaking to you, you can stand up for yourself and say, I don't appreciate being spoken to like this. Or if somebody is dissing your profession, you could just laugh it off and say, yeah, haha, my people suck. Or you could say, actually, I don't think that that's a really accurate representation of the people in my field. Doing this will get you in the habit of treating yourself with respect. Number 2, distance yourself from people who constantly put you down. This kind of relates to my last point. If you have stood up for yourself and set those boundaries with people, and still people continue to disrespect you, it's time to distance yourself. This can be hard for people with low self-esteem because typically when people are putting them down, it's just reinforcing what they already believe. They don't really see what's wrong with how the other person is treating them because they don't have any self-worth themselves. For example, I've mentioned I've been rewatching The Sopranos for the 16th time, and there's this one episode where Adriana is being abused by Christopher because of his drug problem. And I noticed that in the intervention, when she's prompted to say in what way his problem affects her, she brings up the dog, she brings up his responsibilities, she brings up their relationship. She not once mentions the physical toll that it took on her, the way that he disrespected her most vital right of not being physically abused. Because in the minds of someone with low self-esteem like that, they don't see anything wrong with it, really. They convince themselves that maybe, oh, it's my fault, or maybe I deserve it, there's nothing wrong with how this person's treating me. But your self-esteem is never going to grow as long as you are surrounded by people who treat you poorly. If you have a friend who's constantly disrespecting your time, speaking ill of you to other people, invalidating you when you bring up concerns, it's impossible to not absorb some of that. If you're an empathic person, you're going to absorb some of their perspective on you. And the thing that you have to be prepared for is that once you start distancing yourself or standing up for yourself when it comes to people who constantly put you down, you have to be prepared for there to be backlash. Because if this has been a long-standing pattern where you've allowed them to disrespect you over and over again, the types of people that would disrespect you in the first place are going to get pretty angry when they no longer feel that they can use you as their punching bag. So they're going to try to make it seem like it's your problem. They're going to try to make it seem like there's something wrong with you for standing up for yourself or distancing yourself. But you can't let that deter you because all that means is they showed their true colors. You're making the right decision. Now, something that can help increase your self-esteem is meditating and becoming more mindful of what's going on for you internally when you start to notice your self-esteem wavering. Like when you want to say something to advocate for yourself, but you just find yourself pulling back for some reason. That's when things like paying attention to what's going on for you internally is really important. You can start to notice what core beliefs, what fears, what unconscious forces keep popping up. And in fact, I'd like to challenge you on a 30-day meditation challenge on Aura. And this is where I'd like to thank the sponsor of today's video, Aura. Aura is an all-in-one mindfulness and meditation app designed to help you navigate the challenges of daily life and nurture your mental well-being. It has a huge content library filled with hypnotherapy, guided meditations, soothing sleep sounds, created to reduce your stress, help you sleep better, help you meditate, and just generally cultivate mindfulness. And whether you're a new meditator or an experienced one, Aura has something for everybody. And I especially love how easy it is to tailor your experience to what your particular needs are, which you'll find when you create an Aura account. They have an extensive Q&A section where you even decide the types of voices and accents that you prefer in the people who provide these guided meditations. Given all that, it's not surprising that Aura is used by over 7 million people and even won the Best of Apple award. It's kind of like Spotify, but for the mind and soul. So to help with the topic of self-esteem, I actually created my own playlist, which includes a variety of things to help you boost your self-esteem, like hypnotherapy, guided meditations, and podcasts, all focused on this topic. It's designed to help you reflect deeper on your self-esteem and reach those breakthroughs. So join me on that 30-day meditation challenge by creating your own Aura personalized playlist. Get started completely for free using my link below, and the first 500 people to use my link will also get 25% off a free trial to the Aura membership. Thank you so much to Aura, and don't forget to check them out. Number 3, become very aligned with your values. A lot of people don't know this, but basically what low self-esteem comes from, in many cases, is values misalignment. Now, we all have personal values that are most salient to us. For instance, one of my personal values is beauty. I love to experience beauty in my surroundings every day. I love to experience beauty through the art that I create, my writing. I love to experience beauty by traveling, eating good foods. That is really important to me. So if I were to suddenly become a slob in my home, and my home were suddenly in disarray, and I wasn't making the effort to travel or to cook or to get myself presentable on the days when I need to go out, or to make sure that my writing is very vivid and beautiful and descriptive, my self-esteem would probably suffer. You need to be aligned with your values as much as possible if you want to have good self-esteem. That is why I have a bunch of values alignment exercises in both the personal growth journal and a season of life. Because it takes time and it's always fluctuating to some extent, but you need to get really, really clear on what your values are so that you can start implementing them and start building that sense of, I am the things that I value. I am the person I want to be. Self-esteem is not, I'm a better person than this person over there. Self-esteem is, I am the best version of myself. I am the person I want to be. And again, remember that personal values are just that. They're personal. They vary from person to person. So just because I value beauty, that doesn't give me the right to pass judgment on somebody who doesn't. Values do reflect a value judgment, yes. There's a reason why we value those things. We think they're more important than others. But we also need to be respectful of the fact that everybody has their own, and ours are not necessarily more correct than the next person's. So don't suddenly overcorrect to the side where you suddenly judge people very harshly for not living up to your values and your standards, because that reflects you probably still have low self-esteem. You're probably still overcompensating for low self-esteem by focusing on what other people aren't doing correctly. Because if you were happy with yourself and happy with the way you live in alignment with your values, you wouldn't be so worried about what other people are doing. Number 4, keep your promises to yourself. Self-accountability is what builds personal integrity. And integrity is kind of the foundation for self-esteem. If you're not keeping your own promises, your self-esteem is probably suffering because of it. Like, let's say that you told yourself you were going to save up money this year because you want to buy a house, but you ended up blowing it on things that you don't need. Or you promised yourself that you would leave the next time your partner cheats on you. But now he's cheated on you again, and you're still staying with him. Or you told yourself, I'm going to cut back on social media. I'm only going to spend an hour a day on social media. But when you get that notification that your time's up, you just snooze right past it. The most important promises for you to keep are to yourself. Obviously, you can't keep promises to other people if you can't even keep a promise to yourself. And you yourself are the one that asked you to keep this promise. So you already know that it's in your best interest, whereas promises that other people ask of us aren't always in our best interest. So get in the habit of keeping those promises to yourself. And number 5, start trusting yourself over people who don't even know you. Again, this is hard for people with low self-esteem because for those people, self-esteem is generally pretty dependent on external validation. If somebody says you did a good job, you temporarily feel good about yourself. And if someone says you did a bad job, you temporarily feel bad about yourself. Your self-esteem is always fluctuating based on the circumstance. It's always dependent on something other than yourself. And this is no way to live. It's a very stressful way to live. And also, it's not honest because people have their own subjective perspectives that they bring into situations and they don't always know you the way that you know yourself. So they're going to make misinterpretations and assumptions about you. They're going to project a lot of things onto you. I recently watched this TikTok that I've been thinking a lot about. That was, if somebody hates you for no reason, they don't actually have a problem with you. They have a problem with themselves. And I think it's so true. If there's somebody that you've done literally nothing to, and they hate you and they dislike you for no reason, it's because they're projecting their own unwanted psychological traits onto you because they don't actually know you. So you need to get in the habit of trusting the evidence you have about yourself over the evidence that other people who don't even know you have. And just not putting as much stock into what others think of you. Let me give you a couple examples of situations where somebody just randomly accused me of something. And even at the time, I still knew in my core, this is not who I am. And I completely rejected their hypothesis. So I used to work at a very fancy French restaurant in Atlanta. As you can imagine, there's a lot of interesting people that would walk in there. On one occasion, there were these 2 women who came in and they asked me for a table inside. And there were no tables inside. They didn't have a reservation. So I explained that to them and I said, do you have one table that's outside, but it's in the shade? So I take them outside and one of the women starts saying she's allergic to the sun. I didn't know what this meant at the time. Now, in retrospect, I understand it was probably that she had just had Botox that day. And she started to get really angry with me because she was saying, look, there's a little sliver of sun on the patio. And I said, yes, but the sun is just about to go down. It was right over the building. It was about to go down over the horizon. And I'm sorry, we don't have places indoors. And she went off on me. She said that I was rude and disrespectful and that I was insensitive of her allergy to the sun. And obviously in the moment, I was kind of like, what is going on? And this tiny little part of me said is this true? Was I rude to her? But I knew in my heart I would never be rude to a customer. I would never do what she's accusing me of doing. Even if you have low self-esteem, you still have these glimmers, I bet, of situations where somebody tried to project something onto you or tried to accuse you of something, and you were steadfast in the reality that, no, that's not me. I'm not the person you're accusing me of being. So why not translate your sureness of who you are to other situations too? Stop giving so much weight to what other people think of you. At the end of the day, you know yourself and your intentions far better than they do, especially if this is somebody that you don't know well. Caveat here, your perspective isn't infallible either, right? We all have our blind spots, certainly. Sometimes people struggle with self-awareness. So if somebody close to you expresses a concern about your behavior, and certainly if multiple people do so, take them seriously. Don't overcorrect this to the point where you're completely closed off to any feedback or criticism. But in general, if you struggle with low self-esteem, try to trust yourself a little bit more, that you know yourself. Your self-esteem doesn't need to be so dependent on what people who don't know you as well think of you. If you're interested, all my journaling workbooks and my novel are in the description box, as well as my relationship skills course. Take care and see you soon. And don't forget to check out Aura.